the first 3 Sundays of this Easter season, our gospel passages recounted 3 different encounters that the disciples had with the Lord after his resurrection. Last week, we celebrated Good Shepherd Sunday and were reminded of the Lord's care for us as a shepherd who cares for his sheep, and how he draws us all together into the one flock under the one shepherd. Today and in the following weeks, we kind of step backwards a little bit in time, and we have these exhortations from the Lord, from Jesus, on the night of the Last Supper. So these words that he's speaking to his apostles, and in the following weeks, the prayer that he offers to God the Father, are said right before he goes to lay down his life for us and go to his death. He's preparing his disciples for a time where he's not going to be with them to hold their hand through everything. These men have spent the last 3 years of their life with him, walking with him, eating with him, praying with him, learning from him, being shown over and over and over again, right, the way that they ought to do things. And many times we see that the Lord has offered correction, right? That the Lord has offered admonishment, advice. He's called Peter Satan. He's rebuked his disciples for their lack of faith. He's done all of these things to try and help them to grow in a deeper understanding of the Lord and his love for them. And now, he's about to leave. Right? He's going to go and he's going to die on the cross, and he's going to raise from the dead and be with them. But then he's going to leave again, right, in his ascension. And they're kind of going to be on their own. Of course, he's going to be with them, right? He pours out his Spirit upon them at Pentecost, and he gives them the gift of the Eucharist so that he always remains with them. But he's with them in a different way. And in some sense, they're going to have to figure things out on their own. And it's within this context that the Lord gives us this, what he calls a new commandment. I give you a new commandment, he says in today's gospel: love one another. And perhaps at first glance this is a little confusing, right? Because the Lord has told us over and over and over again in the Gospels that we should love one another. In fact, earlier in the Gospels he says that the 2 greatest commandments in the law are to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and the second, to love your neighbor as yourself. So when he gives this commandment, why is he saying, I give you a new commandment? This seems like a pretty old commandment. The reason it seems to me that it's a new commandment is that he's commanding us to love in a much deeper way. The love that he's commanding of us is something that has not been commanded of us before this point. Before, the commandment was love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the commandment is this: as I have loved you, so you also should love one another. Rather than the example of love being the affection that I have for myself and the desire for my own good that I have, the example and the model of love now is the cross. Is a love so real, a love so deep, a love so fierce, that it's willing to give up one's own life for the good of another. This is the love now that Jesus commands of us. To love one another as we love ourselves is good, and it's important. But that's almost, you can see, right, a love that the spirit of the world even can accept. Right? I can will the good of another, and I can desire their good, and I can work for their good, as long as it doesn't encroach on my own good. As long as I'm not inconvenienced by my love for them. As long as I don't have to give anything up myself and can still strive after the things that I want and the things that I think are good for me. But now, Jesus is commanding a different kind of love. Jesus is commanding a kind of love that makes no sense to the world. A love that says, I'm going to forego my own good for the sake of someone else. I'm going to give up myself so that another might be saved. I'm going to lay down my life so that another may live. This is the kind of love that Jesus calls us to, and this is the kind of love that he says is proof that we are his disciples. This is the witness to our discipleship. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, says Jesus, if you love one another as I have loved you. This is what it means to be a part of the church. This is what it means to be a part of this parish. That we love one another, that we lay down our lives for one another, that we sacrifice our own good in many instances for the sake of someone else. This is what Jesus does for us. We come here today and we receive this gift of the Lord who gives himself entirely to us, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist, for our good, that we may be nourished by his love, and that we may be transformed by his grace. And what he asks of us in return is this kind of love, that we would conform our lives more and more to his every day, that we would lay down our lives for those around us, so that in laying down our life, we may be united to his cross. And being united to his cross and sharing in that death, we may also share in his resurrection and in his eternal life.